Welcome back to Cherry's Diary, and this is your teacher Cherry. ED at the end of the word signals something has happened. It is easy to spell, but did you know that the suffix ed has three ways to pronounce? That's why some of the speakers find it confusing on what sound to use when encountered with the words that end with ed. In this video, we will discuss the rules on knowing what sound to use when reading words that end in ed. We have simple past tense verb endings as our topic today. Particularly, we are dealing with the three ways to pronounce the ed. But before going deeper, let's define what is verb first. Verb simply defines as an action word. Now let's define what is a simple past tense. The simple past is a verb tense that is used to talk about things that happened or existed before now, meaning to say all those things that already ended or already finished. Take note that in the simple past tense, regular verbs have the suffix ed. So I want to emphasize today that our topic or the scope of our topic is limited only to the regular verbs. So let's forget about the irregular verbs first. Okay, now going back to the three sounds of verb. So we have the first sound that you can hear in the word jumped. Okay, so below jumped, we have the phonetic translation of the sound of ed, and that is t. Next word, we have the word shouted. So this is the phonetic translation of the sound of id. So let's read it again. It's shouted. Next word. For the last word, we have the word played. Below is the phonetic translation of the sound of ed, and that is d. Now let's read it again. Jumped. So the ed has the sound of t. Shouted. The ed has the sound of id. Played. The ed has a sound of d. Therefore, the simple past tense verb endings has three different sounds. Meaning, or in short, the ed at the end spelled identically but pronounced differently. When does the ed sounds like t? The ed sounds like t if the simple form of the verb end with one of these sounds. Actually, these sounds belong to the voiceless sound because when you produce these sounds, the air is just passing through your mouth at different points and your vocal cords is relaxed. So let's try to sound or produce this sound. We have the first sound k, s, p, f, sh, ch, x. As you observe that there is no blockage in your vocal cords when you pronounce these sounds. Now, the sound of k can be heard in the word like cook. Okay, the last sound is k. This is the phonetic translation of the sound of k. Okay, let's add the suffix ed at the end. Cooked. Since the last sound in the simple form of verb is k, and if you put ed at the end, the ed sounds like t, so we will read this word as cooked. Second word, we have kiss. The sound of s or the s sound can be heard at the end of the simple form kiss. Let's make it into past tense by adding suffix ed at the end. So this word can be read as kissed. The ed sounds like t. Next word, jump. The last sound that you can hear in the simple form jump is p. So let's make it into past tense by adding suffix ed at the end. So the ed here sounds like t because the word jump ends with the sound of p. Let's read the word jumped. Next, we have the word laugh. Laugh. The last sound that you can hear is the sound of f. Okay, I just want to emphasize that in identifying the sound of ed at the end of the simple form of the verb, so it doesn't matter the last letter, but what matters most is the sound that you can hear at the end of the simple form. Let's make it into past tense by adding the suffix ed at the end. Laughed. So the ed here now sounds like t. Laughed. Next word, brush. You can hear the sound of sh at the end of this word. Actually, the sh in a word has a phonetic translation of this. So this phonetic translation has a sound of sh. So if you can hear that sound at the end of the simple form of verb, if the verb is in past tense, you will going to read the ed as t. So let's read the word brushed. Next word, watch. Ch is the last sound, and this is the phonetic translation of the sound of ch. Okay, so let's make it into past tense by adding suffix ed at the end. So the ed sounds like t, so we are going to read the word as watched. Next word, fix. You can hear the sound of x at the end of the word. So if we put ed at the end, the ed sounds like t, so we're going to read the word as fixed. Let's read again all the words. You can follow after me. Cooked, kissed, jumped, laughed, brushed, watched, fixed. When does the ed sounds like id? So the ed sounds like id when the simple form of verb ends with one of the sounds. So there are only two sounds that you are going to memorize, and that is the sound of t and the sound of d. Now let's go to the first word. We have the word point. So this simple form of verb ends with a t sound. So this is the phonetic translation of the sound of t. So according to the rule, if the simple form of verb ends with a t sound, the ed at the end sounds like id. So we're going to read this one as pointed. Next word, we have the word shout. So the last sound that you can hear is the sound of t. Okay, so this is the sound of t. So let's add a suffix ed at the end to make it into past tense. So the word now read as shouted. Again, because the last sound of the simple form of verb ends with the sound of t. Therefore, the ed sounds like id. Okay, now let's go to the third word. We have the word paint. So the last sound of the word paint sounds like t. So this is now the sound of t. So if we add the suffix ed at the end, we're going to sound the ed here like id. So let's read the word painted. Now let's proceed to the next word. We have the word scold. The last sound that you can hear is a sound of d. Okay, so if we put a suffix ed at the end, the ed here sounds like id. Let's read the word scolded. Next word, we have the word fold. D is the last sound, and this is the last sound. Fold. Let's try to add an ed at the end. Folded. the ed sounds like id. Okay, again, because the suffix, the simple form of verb ends with d, so the ed sounds like id. Folded. Next word, we have the word vote. So the last sound is the sound of t, vote. Take note that it's not the letters that you can see, but the sound that you can hear. T is the last sound. So let's try to make it into past tense by adding only d at the end. The ed at the end or the d at the end sounds like id, so we're going to read it as voted. Last word, we have the word hand. D. D is the last sound. This is the phonetic translation of the sound of d. So if you put ed at the end, the ed sounds like id. So we are going to read the word as handed. Let's read again all the words. You can follow after me. The first word is pointed, shouted, painted, scolded, folded, voted, handed. Finally, we are now in the last sound of ed, and that is the sound of d. Now, when is ed sounds like d at the end of the verb in simple form? Now, if the verb is after most other sounds, like the sound of v, m, n, l, r, j, g, z, z, j, b, m, and the vowel sounds. Now we can hear the sound of v in a word drive. Okay, drive is the last sound. So since the word ends with e, let's just put d at the end to make it into past tense. So we're going to read the word as drived. Okay, the d at the end sounds like d. Next word, the word is claim. Is the last sound. Let's make it into past tense by adding ed at the end. So we're going to read the word as claimed. Next word. The word is turn. In this simple form of verb, we can hear the sound of n at the end. N. Therefore, if we put ed at the end, we're gonna read the word as turned. Can you hear that? The sound of ed, the sound of d at the end, turned. Next word, call. L is the last sound. And this is the phonetic translation of the sound of L. Let's make it into past tense by adding suffix ed at the end. We'll read the word as cold. Again, it's cold. Next word, share. The last sound is r. So let's add suffix d since the word already ends with e. So we're gonna read the word as shared. Next word, merge. The last sound of the word merge is the sound of j. So this is the phonetic translation of the sound of j. Let's add d let's add d only since the word ends with e already. So we're gonna read the word as merged. Next word, dig. G is the last sound. So in the word dig, let's add g and add ed at the end to make it into past tense. So we're gonna read the word as digged. Next word, we have the word bathe. Z. This is the phonetic translation of the sound of z. So let's make it into past tense by adding suffix d at the end. We're gonna read the word as bathe. Okay, next word. We have the word blaze. Z is the last sound. Again, it's not the letter that you see, but it's the sound that you hear will determine the sound of ed or d at the end of the word. So let's put d at the end to make it into past tense. So we're going to read this word as blazed. Next word, massage. The last sound is j, and this is the phonetic translation of the sound of j. Let's make it into past tense by adding d at the end. So we're going to read the word as massaged. Next word, scrub. B is the last sound. B is the last sound. Let's make it into past tense by adding b and ed at the end. So let's read it again. It's scrubbed. Next word, we have the word bang. Is the last sound, and this is the phonetic translation of the sound of bang. Let's make it into past tense by adding suffix ed at the end. We're going to read the word as banged. Last word, we have the word cry. The Y here doesn't function as a consonant, instead as a vowel. So, cry. You can hear the sound of long I, cry. So, if the verb if the verb ends with Y, to make it into past tense, let's change Y into I and add ed. So we're gonna read the word as cried. Let's read again all the words that ends with the D sound. Drived, claimed, turned, cold, shared, merged, digged, bathed, blazed, massaged, scrubbed, banged, and cried. We are now in the summary of pronunciation of ed. Final ed is pronounced t after verbs ending in voiceless sounds except k, cooked, walked, talked, s, danced, missed, practiced, p, typed, hoped, helped, f, laughed, staffed, scoffed, s, scathed, wreathed, teethed, sh, punished, washed, flushed, ch, snatched, watched, switched, d. Final ed is pronounced d after verbs ending in voiced sounds, including vowel sounds. V, lived, waved, arrived, harmed, confirmed, performed, phoned, signed, cleaned, called, killed, strolled, preferred, discovered, entered, changed, judged, encouraged, begged, plugged, bathed, clothed, teethed, advised, realized, roused, garaged, climbed, bump, banged, belonged. Id. Final ed is pronounced id after verbs ending in t, or D sound. T, voted, waited, D, minded, sounded. Before we end with our topic today, let's have a paragraph reading first. But before that, let's read the words with ed to enunciate it correctly when we're going to read the paragraph later. T, in the word chopped, helped, packed, walked, licked, laughed. D, grabbed, filled, hagged, wagged, grinned. Id, wanted, handed, spotted, trotted. Now let's proceed to reading the paragraph entitled Picnic in the Park. Mom and I wanted to go to the park to have a picnic. Mom handed me a picnic basket to fill. I grabbed an apple. We chopped it up. Mom helped me pack more snacks. We packed them in. We filled the basket up quick. Mom and I walked to the park. We spotted Pam and her dog Mac. They trotted over and I hugged Mac. Mac wagged his tail. Then he jumped up and licked my face. Oh, silly Mac! We all laughed and grinned. I hope that you learned something from today's video. Please do not forget to subscribe, hit the bell button, like, and comment your thoughts. Thanks for watching.